Hello and welcome to this video. My name is David Thorne. This is now the fourth part and possibly the last part of my JavaScript Basics for absolute beginners, going over the fundamental concepts of JavaScript. So this is now the 31st up to the 40th video in this series, and if you haven't seen the other videos already, then I'll leave a link on the screen right now for you to click on and go back and watch them. I would really advise going back to the beginning and starting at example 1 because I think you might have lost some context. So other than that, if you have watched the other videos, let's get started. So next thing, understanding scope. Now, this is super important. We highlighted this earlier on with regards to the window and the document and stuff, and we can see this nicely here with the local test scope, right? And the local scope right now where we're stopped with inside of this function, so we're inside of the curly braces here, and we can see this local var, right? And if we move forward one more line, we now see local var, and this is local to this block here, all right, as in from code line 9 here to then line 13. So we can access, we just move forward one little bit, we can access global scope. So it's essentially, if this one file is our outer scope, you can always access outer scope with inside of smaller or inner scopes, okay? But you can define your own variables inside of it, and you can also overwrite variables inside of it as well. So, but this is something you really need to test out yourself to appreciate it and understand it, all right? And now if you see, we let this run, we call test scope, all right, here, and then we come underneath it and we say then accessible, sorry, global var is then accessible here, which is what is here. And let's just stop this again, and you can see that, let's let that run. We've got I'm a global variable, which is what we outputted here first of all, and then we outputted here, excuse me, and then we outputted I'm a local variable, which is this then local var, and then we outputted local variable once again. And just for the sake of clarity, let's uncomment this and show you what happens. And as you can see here, local var is not defined, all right? So we get some form of a reference error here because it doesn't exist. Local var exists here, okay? So you need to make sure that you understand scope when it comes down to JavaScript. 32, nearly there. Array sum. Now we saw that we could use the square braces, and this is synonymous to saying array, all right? And it's initiating the array. It's the shorthand to use it. Now sum, I've written out what it does here, so which is basically copied from here. Determines whether the specific callback function returns true for any element of an array, any. So it just can be one or more, all right? And we've got some numbers here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And once again, if number is then modulus 2 is equal to 0, so it's an even number, then it's going to be true, all right? Let's just run this. And this, we've seen this already, this with reduce, and we saw it with filter, and we saw it with for each. It's going to iterate through every single item, and we can see here that it's got value, index, and then the array. So we've got the number and index and then L here, and we can use these with inside of this if required, all right? But yeah, so this is a way of defining whether a specific, so if you want to know, does this contain one of these items in it, then use sum, all right? Let's move on to the next one because there are more. Now, every just determines whether all the members of an array satisfy the specific test. So like the last one, it just said, hey, I just want to know if there's one of them in there, and that's it. Now every is going to go through every single item in it and say you need to be 100% all even numbers, okay? And in this scenario, all even is actually true, okay? Now we go down to the next one and we say all odd. And now remember, we're using all of the numbers here. We're saying, hey, what I want you to do is I want you to expand all these numbers into an array, and we're going to put 3 on the end of it, all right? So just ignore this, and that's what we've done. We've basically taken 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10 and placed them in here, right? And then we've added 3 on the end of it. And so now we know that we have lots of even numbers, then an odd number. And now we're saying that every number must be, once again, more than 0. So if it's modulus 2, it's more than 0. So there we're saying if all of them are odd, okay, because it's going to be more than 0, which modulus 2 is always going to leave a remainder if it's not even. So here we're saying all of you need to be odd. Well, it's not going to be the case. If we just run this, if these numbers, if every number is modulo 2 is more than members of an array satisfy the script type, number in modulus 2 is more than 0. If I've confused myself here, I thought I made an example where it was going to be false. Okay, so we have B is then number. So what number is 3, modulus 2 is then going to be more than 0, right? Because we got, let's just show for clarity here what we have. And this is why the debugger comes always in useful. Okay, so we have C is equal to 1. So that is more than 0. Okay, so we're happy with that. And now we have C is then 1 because we have number is 5. That is then also going to be, yeah, and we have 7. Ah, that's what I did, yeah. Sorry, I forgot I put the plus 1 here, all right? Because I took all the even numbers and then I plus 1, which then turned them all into odd numbers, all right? So by adding 3 onto the end, we now know that we've got all odd numbers, okay? I apologize, I missed that I did this. But I was wondering why. I thought I tested this and made it all work, and it did. Anyway, there we go. So that's how you can also debug your work as well. 34, JavaScript set object. Now, sets are unordered lists, or unordered, right? They're not lists, they're just unordered. So we create a new set, and we add a list here, or an array, and it's going to iterate through all of these items, and it's going to remove all duplicates of it. And then here we're going to say then my set add. So this is obviously an instance of an object, and set being the blueprint of the class. And we're going to add 5, and we're going to add 6. And obviously 5 is not going to be added because it already exists within inside of the set. So if we run the debugger here, and we'll see my set has 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 already. So running add 5 is going to do basically nothing. And then we add 6, and we can see that 6 gets added. And then we console log my set, and we can see that they're in random order as well. So it doesn't matter that they don't contain duplicates, so they're all distinct, and the order doesn't matter. All right, but we can see here that my set has 3, and it returns true. So if you need to have like a list, let's call it, of keys, and you don't want to have any duplicates in it, then array is not the thing for you. But what you can do is you can kind of like accumulate all of your items in an array here, and then pass it to a set. And this is basically just going to make a union of it. It's going to remove any duplicates and give it to you. So sets are super awesome, and I did a whole bunch of videos about sets in Python as well, if you want to watch that. But I love set theory, and I'm going to delve a lot more into sets in JavaScript as well, because I think it's a super interesting topic. Anyway, let's continue. So array find, another high order function, and I'm just going to skip through this because this basically does the same. It calls a predicate, right? And as you can see here, returns the value of the first element in the array where predicate is true and undefined otherwise. So if it does find the first number that is a multiple of 9, right, which it one here, then it's then going to return that one item, returns the value of the first element. So it's going to say, hey, are you a multiple of 9? Yes, then give me that number. And there's a whole bunch of these from arrays that you can use to be able to filter out all of the different items that you want, right? But you have to be careful, because sometimes if you use the wrong one, you have like an array with 100 million items in it, and you're just searching for the first occurrence, and you then filter through all of them. It's not very efficient. So you need to make sure you find the one that exits as quick as possible. So when you find it, it wants to exit on the first time that it finds it, okay? So understanding this keyword now, I'm going to go over this so fast because this is literally, I've got, I think, about an hour's video on my YouTube channel about this. And yeah, this is a function of show, and a function and an arrow function, right? Anonymous function like this, which haven't been over yet, they fall under this differently, okay? But we're gonna ignore this. And I'm just literally, I'm not going to say, I shouldn't have put understanding, I'm just going to say intro to it. So when we say show, it's going to be the window or the global object where this is attached, all right? And because it's not on an object, right? Object here has this method show, okay? And it has a property show, sorry, and this is equal to a method. And when we come here with inside show, stop this and run this again, you'll see and move forward that this is then the global this, and this is what's super important here. This is the global this, and if we run it one more time, and now come in here, you can see now this is an object, all right, and it's this object, the name object here, all right, and so we can now access the different items in it. So if we take away this one here, and let's just run it again, you can see now that we can move forward, just jump forward, and we can now yeah, oh yeah, sorry, my object name, just it sounds a bit confusing when you look at it like that. If we take these breakpoints away and we run this again, you'll see that it spits out my object name. I was getting a little bit confused there. I saw objects, and sometimes in JavaScript and debugging it will say object like that as well. But we can access this one name. However, if we take this away and just run this one instead, you'll see we get undefined, because this is the global this, and there is no name on the global this, okay? And if we just said name David up here and run it again, you see we get David, because it's accessing the global name instead, okay? But that was just like a super fast intro to this. Continuing on, we now got array splice. Now splice, this is a super helpful tool to have, because it can manipulate your arrays in place, and it gives you back anything that you do splice off, all right? And let's just read the instructions here. Removes element from an array, and, so not a set, an array, and, if necessary, inserts new elements in their place, returning the deleted item. So what we're saying here is I want you to start at element 2. Remember, 0, 1, 2. So it's starting at mango. And then I want you to go forward one item. So I want you to delete one item, which is here. It's going to delete only this item, so at mango, all right? And then it's going to replace this one item with kiwi and puppy eye. Okay, so removes one element from index 2, adds these two here. And as you can see here, we now have apple, banana, kiwi, puppy eye, and orange. I probably said that wrong. And then we get the deleted ones. And continuing on. Okay, so now promises. I'm going to skip over this super quick as well, because this is just going to give you an intro. So promise is something that will allow you to do asynchronous calls. All right, so it means that it will allow you to use sequence. So it means that your sequential code can veer off in another branch, right? But it's still single threaded. And when this gets called, it's then going to call, yeah, this is just going to go to show you here what a promise is. So when we call this then here, with inside of our function here that gets called, we say it's resolved, and after then 3 seconds, it outputs console.log data. And we can see here that data loaded. This reject one would get called inside of here if there was an error, and then you would access it using catch here, which I have in the next example. All right. Now, async and await, this is literally just me skipping over, giving you an introduction to this. So in this promise, what we've created is on the global scope, x is equal to 0, right? And when the callback gets called here, we're going to say if x is less than 1, increment 1, and then on set timeout, after 2 seconds, I want it to say data fetched. Else, reject it, right? So basically have an error, and this is the text that you're going to say that x is more than or equal to 1. And so inside of our asynchronous function, fetch data, we're then going to wait for this promise to finish. And in the event that it catches an error, or it has an error, or this reject gets called, we're going to print out the error and the text here, right? Now, once this is blocking, right? This is going to be blocking. I'm saying lots of words here that you probably don't understand. This is going to wait blocking until it finishes. So if result is not equal to defined, it's going to wait until this one finishes. And this is a blocking function, okay? And then if it's not equal to undefined, so if there is an error, result is going to be undefined because it never returned anything, right? So if everything went okay, we should get the result outputted here. So let's run this. And you can see here that we get 2 times, we get x is more than or equal to 1, all right? Because we called it twice here, and it happened literally instantly. So in nanoseconds, microseconds, that x got incremented 2 times. And then it had to wait 2 seconds, and then data fetch came after it, all right? So this was data fetch here. This was the data fetch output, and this was the first one, second one. But if you need to do asynchronous code to do like an API call to send back to the server to collect some type of stuff, then it's super important that you understand what asynchronous means, first of all, and what blocking means, and then how await works. And if you're just new to JavaScript, you should be super happy because this stuff wasn't around in the beginning when I started programming JavaScript. There was all sorts of horrible stuff you had to do. But now it's there as default. So now, and the final one. Now, this is something that you should really understand because it's calling a function right here. So outer function we're calling it with a parameter of outside, which is the variable here. And inside that function, we are defining and returning another function, okay? And we are going to take that inner function and use the outer variable here. And then we're also going to have a function that takes another variable. And so you can see here that new function is a variable that has that takes a parameter as well and returns void. So it doesn't do anything basically. That's what return voids mean. So this is what you can do, and this can be really interesting for stuff where you want to be able to dispose. You want like garbage collection to clean up. When you have a property and when you're finished with it, you call that one property and that kills it, all right? And this has its own scope inside of here as well, all right? And you can do some really nifty stuff in this, really super awesome stuff. This L will always be alive. So you could call this function as many times as you want, right? And if we just keep, say, log console.log L, and we say this here, and we run this, you'll see here that we get 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? Because this L is local to the outer function, and which means that this new function can be called as many times as you want. It has complete access to this L because it contains it within inside of its scope, all right? But this is getting into how you should be writing JavaScript code like this because it's super, super awesome. So there we go. That's now 40 examples done. Well done for getting all the way through to the end. If you have got this far, give yourself a big tap on the back, pat on the back even, because you are really, really doing very well, and yeah, I can see that you're going to have a very good career in programming. Now all you need to do is go back and watch the video a whole bunch more times and practice the different examples by yourself, rewriting the code in your own way, debugging it using the debugger as I've done on Visual Studio Code to get a real core understanding of the fundamental concepts of JavaScript. If you can get this down, if you can perfect this, then there should be nothing that you can't do with JavaScript. And frameworks like React or Vue or Next.js or Node are going to be super easy for you to pick up, right? And this is all about the fundamental concepts. This is the foundations that JavaScript uses, all right? And there's some more things to learn, but with all of this stuff I've talked about already in the last 40 examples, you've got the knowledge to be able to take all of this stuff on, all right? So thank you very much for watching. Please do me a favor, give me a like, give me a comment, just say something or share the video, or yeah, just watch the next videos on my channel or watch something else. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching. And if there is another video or continuation to this, it will be on the screen right now. Otherwise, thanks very much, and I will see you in other videos. Thanks then, bye.